extraordinary guides for many, many years for this work. Pat, the founder, the director of the work, and Joan, the co-director of the work, and the presiding light over our conference. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat to guide us through the afternoon.
Thank you, Juliet. And I wanted to especially thank La Casa de Maria, Juliet, and this is our second international conference here. We did this 5 years ago. And truly, the heart and home of Capacitar here in California is La Casa. And all of the values that La Casa has as the core of the spirit here, those also are our values as Capacitar. So thank you. It's a joy to introduce you to some of our friends and teams from many different countries. And I'm making each of the presentations only be 10 minutes this afternoon because the experiences are so rich. You can visit our website, and also Taryn will be putting some of the proceedings of the conference onto YouTube. So if you're interested in more of that, you'll have that opportunity. Just a little bit about Capacitar, how we started. I never planned to start an organization. That's not who I am. I was a teacher and religious for some years, and I found myself being heartbroken by what was going on in Nicaragua during the war years there in the 1980s. And some friends that I met synchronistically invited me to go to Nicaragua to work on an art project. I'm also an artist besides being a teacher. And in the process of working 2 weeks, painting big banners and working in the barrios of Managua with people who were, at that time I didn't realize, but they were traumatized by the war going on. To survive that work for myself, I did Tai Chi, that we just did here, and acupressure. And my Nicaraguan friends said, "We like your art, but we want to learn. Can you teach us what you just did for yourself to take care of yourself?" And that's how Capacitar started. And I had been doing a lot of solidarity work in Guatemala and Chile. And so friends in Guatemala, union men who were with the Coca-Cola union under death threat, some of them tortured, some of them disappeared. They said, we need these too. So we led workshops with union guys, Coca-Cola guys, to get them to just go into the depth of their own spirits, where they were losing their heart, losing themselves in the struggle. The same happened in Chile with friends of Pinochet. So very, very quickly, the work started growing. We ran the Healing Tent in 1995 for the big women's conference, the Beijing Conference for Women. And we had 25 women from 12 countries there. So our work began to be known in many different places. And along the way, I began to meet remarkable people like Geneviève, Alibel, and most recently our Japanese delegates very synchronistically meeting up. And only as a result of several workshops we did there in Japan in June of this year with over 300 people, we now have the formation of the Roots for the Future in the most difficult part right now of Japan, the whole Tohoku coast that was flattened by the tsunami and earthquake, and now being just made toxic by the radiation and Fukushima. These are where our friends are from. So what happened in the course of Capacitar starting to grow, our methodology is not one where we come in a colonial way and give people all this wonderful work and information. But we give them some tools to awaken their own spirits, and then they become the teachers. They become the popular educators. So our work in some ways is rather revolutionary. We appear to be nice folks teaching wellness practices, but in reality, what we're doing is changing people. Paulo Freire, the basis of popular education with Paulo Freire, stayed in the head, and I always say we take Freire to the body. And once people begin to feel different, they have the energy to heal their own traumas, and then to continue their work for human rights, for work to heal gender violence, to work for social justice, to do the work in many places. So what we want to introduce you to today are 5 sets of remarkable people from 5 different world areas, just to give you a taste, and they'll give you also images of their countries. At the end of this, we'll have some time for questions and reflections, and then a closing so that you can actually talk to people one-on-one. One of the big issues right now in America is immigration. And we've worked in the El Paso Juarez area for a number of years now, and a remarkable team has developed. Several of you heard the name Capacitar Frontera, and it really means Capacitar's presence, not just in America, in El Paso, or some of the other American cities, but on both sides in Juarez, which has been called Murder City of the World. So I'd like to invite the Capacitar Frontera presenters to come forward, those of you who are presenting, and take your places right into it.
Two hospital and jails are a program that helps inmates turn anger into acceptance.
And in 87th Anniversary Hope Report, officials hope this program will impact their lives even after they are released.
Stress, anger, and depression. They're common feelings among inmates waiting in any jail. One program seeks to alleviate that angst. You can see the results in these before and after programs made by inmates themselves. It's called Capacitar, meaning to empower or bring life.
This is really sustained and was fun.
Yes, Capacitar is body resistance, and what we mean by that is learning to read the signs that our body gives us, that there is certain or other problems going on in our body. And to begin to locate physically located in our body, and then to begin to understand what the triggers are for that.
Inmates in the program are not necessarily prisoners. Some have been accused of a crime and are awaiting trial or sentencing. The Joyce Blackout that includes the driving while prosecuted and parole violations.
The program was like, we went in there and we sat down and calmed down and listened to music. And we got stresses because we have a lot of stress that we have to go through.
The program includes meditation, stretching exercises, and even Tai Chi. From the sheriff's perspective, Capacitar can help improve both the inmates' lives and the county.
And so we do everything we can to help, not just lock the inmate and just hold them while they're waiting for trial, but to try to get them in an improved state so when they're out, they're not doing bad things and come right back into the system.
Capacitar is a pilot program for now, as the results are evaluated. The best way to see the success is in choices after drawing.
And this is me now where I'm feeling happy and it just really doesn't matter what people think about me. That I'm trying to change my life, and going to church has made me realize that I need to do things better.
Andrew J. Holt, ABC 7.
Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Welcome and good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Kathy Revtyak. I'm one member of the Capacitar and Frontera Team.
Braun, another member. Maricarmen, Casavantes.
It's a privilege to be with you this afternoon. Thank you, Sheila. What you were able to see was a recent newscast, a clipping of a newscast that was recently aired in El Paso, Texas, and highlights some of the work that Sister Kathy Braun, a couple other members of our binational team have been doing in detention facilities. We want to talk to you about those examples, but first I'm going to widen the lens just a little bit to introduce who we are and where we're from. We are from El Paso, Texas, Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua. So we are at a point of intersection and intersectionality of states, of countries, of peoples, of cultures. And despite all of the parent division, we really are a binational, a bicultural community that's incredibly rich. At the same time, unfortunately, our community is a bit infamous, as it were. Many people have heard of the explosion, really, of violence that has rocked and wreaked havoc, really, on northern Mexico and Ciudad Juarez. And so while for decades, really, we've been a point of movement of people, a movement of economic goods, a movement of drugs, of guns, of money, a constant flowing through our places, through our spaces. We've also really been stressed and pressured with the explosion of this violence. As of 2012, there were approximately 40 to 50,000 people who lost their lives in Mexico, who had lost their lives as a result of the conflict that exploded. Last year, unfortunately, we hit the mark of 10,000 individuals who had been forcibly disappeared in northern Mexico. Kidnappings, extortions, organized crime are only some of the horrific occurrences that affect our people. And so we live in a context where our brothers and sisters living in Juarez are not only chronically but acutely stressed and experiencing trauma. And at the same time, there's been this flow, almost 100,000 people that have moved from northern Mexico across the border into the valley, into our border community. And so at the same time, our social and human service agencies have been stressed, really, and more so stressed, as people have looked to flee physically, seeking physical safety, but searching for some healing and integration. So that's our community, and let me tell you about our team in another 2 minutes. We are Capacitar and Frontera. You can go ahead and advance it. And our, I suppose, mission, as it were, is to bring about some integration, some healing, some transformation of trauma on our border community. Our team is composed of an advisory board of about 8 members, and we truly are a binational team. Kathy and I sort of represent the El Paso side of the border today, Maricarmen, Juarez. And so we are a network of solidarity and support. We've been working on the border, well, early seeds 10 years ago, but really for the past 5 years have been working through a series of multiplication efforts to spread the work and practices of Capacitar. This is a picture, of course, of where we're located, this point of intersectionality. Thank you, Kathy. And so what we are about, sort of in a nutshell, is really planting seeds, the work of multiplication. And we'll tell you a little bit about the longer term trainings that have been going on both sides of our border with lay as well as professional individuals. And particularly in the recent years, we've been offering specific support and networking opportunities for human rights activists, people on the front lines really working to address these most immediate trauma needs. Kathy's going to talk to you about some of the year-long and now into 2- and 3-year-long pilot programs that we have in detention centers. And again, we're supporting a number of ongoing groups and projects, agencies, again, in the areas of human rights, issues of gender, violence in our school systems, the community college and school districts, faith-based entities, and grassroots organizations. Quickly, in El Paso, Texas, we're excited. We are, go ahead, Sheila. That we are we're a little more than midway through our most recent training program. This year, through this cycle, we've been really particularly focusing on targeting leaders. Leaders in communities, leaders in agencies, leaders in institutions and systems. We've really been looking at and thinking about how it is that we not only engage and support individuals and their families, but how do we bring some of these transformative intention and outcomes to the systems level. So we have represented a tremendous group of leaders from public, private, and government sectors. Go ahead. And the most exciting thing, we've been talking about net mapping. How do we study this multiplication effort, right, on a grassroots level? So we're looking to continue to build our presence along the border. And I will pass the baton to Kathy.
And also in our multicultural wellness, we are doing, focusing on care for the caregiver, because we all find ourselves in that situation of needing to replenish and care for ourselves. We have done tasters in various agencies to highlight leaders that we wanted for the trainings, as well as to continue to offer it as we can to community groups that are asking for this kind of support. This includes work in the colonias, which are outlying areas in the U.S. And then I particularly have been part, along with Father Richard Sotelo, who's seated in the bottom left, at the federal agency, the Homeland Security's detention center, which is, or we call the deportation center, or the Corralón, where women and men are, about 900, are housed and detained and imprisoned, basically, until their immigration situation is resolved, either to stay, to appeal for asylum, political asylum, or to be returned to their home and separated from families. So many, you see some of the leadership that is supporting a pilot in that center, which completed its first cycle February 2011. They never told us to stop. So we are into 2.5 years. And we began with a 7-week cycle down to 6 weeks, and now you can go to the next slide. We are down to 4-week cycles because there's a turnover of personnel. And so we include some of the basic Capacitar classes, and we offer it to the women. There's a capacity for up to 250 some women on that campus of the 900. And in our first site, we had room for about, we limited it to 50 women in a class, and now we have a new beautiful site. And the goals are basically to improve their general physical and mental health, and to give them tools to deal with their stress and anxiety and physical illnesses, not to replace the psychological services and medical services available to them, but also to help them gain some control in their lives. And the women love it. And then as part of the evaluation of the 4 weeks, we have them draw images, because they often don't have the vocabulary. And we try to focus on body literacy. What does your body feel like now? And so we ask them to draw an image of themselves before they begin the training, and now at the end of 4 weeks, and there are many other slides back there on Rain's display. And the women often do the flower, or this woman is very sad, and there's no end to my situation, very desperate and very happy. This was Laura, a mother of children separated, did not know she would ever see them, but with Capacitar classes, she was able to take off the mask of being very sad and depressed, and you can see her doing Tai Chi. She felt free within herself. Her situation had not gotten better, but she felt like she could live now and live for her children. So it's self-reported change. And next. And then we have in the jails, that was the TV clip that you saw that the sheriff is promoting. We just finished, along with other volunteers, a 6-month pilot in the county jail for women inmates, and from January 15th to June 15th of this year. And using the model we use in the deportation center. And the results were very outstanding. Staff noted differences of less conflict in the cells. Women self-reported, I have less anger now, I can sleep. My headache is less. Self-reported changes physically, emotionally. Okay. And you saw the video, and I will turn it over to Maricarmen. And I forgot to mention a year-long project that Kathy Revtyak was involved in. I'm sorry, my voice doesn't carry. There was a 1-year juvenile probation program, court-mandated attendance by the parents, a weekly program, and Kathy did Capacitar at both ends of the presentation to the families to give them some tools to deal with their situations and parenting. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here to have the opportunity to show you another side of Juarez, in the sense that we are all very much aware of the violence, the high rate violence. But what I would like to tell you also, because of the violence, is because of the situation where we have been way back since the maquiladoras started, in the sense that the government and private sectors have invested a lot in the economic development, but not in the social development of the people. They thought that it would be automatically, and it shows it hasn't. So right now, as I said, because of this situation, we have also the other side, which is the opportunity for grassroots organizations to really work on providing these opportunities that none of the sectors are. So like, for example, as you can see here in the picture, we are getting together for the training of 45 people, and the facilities are from the Consejo Ciudadano. This is a place where all 45 nonprofit organizations meet on regular basis, and so they allow us to meet in here, and they also help us to select, as Kathy was saying, that we were trying to get in touch with the leaders of different organizations and different systems, so we get to spread the word and the practices that have so much potential. So this is one of the places where we go. I also attend on regular basis a group of women, and the results from the practices are just incredible. They are very happy. They are able to handle the stress of the colonias. You know, the gangs are no longer in charge. It's the cartels that are in charge. So there's a lot of violence around them. The police department is not a resource or a tool, and we have military people coming into the city. We have 7,000 military that didn't know about the city, that committed more abuse to the citizens, so it really was not a help. So this is really a tool that everybody is very happy to have, because there's no investment in equipment. All you need is your breath and your body. So it's fantastic. And it also doesn't require any discipline, like in yoga, you have to have a certain practices, On this one, you really are not. It can be applied to kids, it can be applied to any population. So we are very thankful. The human rights workers have been very, very important in our cities, because those are the ones that they're brave enough to face the government. They have been, how do you say, amenazados? They have been threatened, and so their life is at risk. And so the human rights organizations are key to our border. And they have always, they also have made us in touch with other part of, Torreon and Leon, and so they are coming also to our training. So we really want to spread this good news about Capacitar. I don't know if you have any questions on what is.
I think we'll hold the questions till the very end, because we have just 10-minute slots here.
Okay, thank you.
So we could call. It's always so inspiring. It's always so inspiring to be in both El Paso and Juarez, because you see such vibrant community action and people really collaborating with each other, which so many other places don't have that level. So from the border communities, we now fly. Imagine yourself getting on a plane and flying halfway around the world from El Paso and Juarez to Africa. So I want to invite our next speaker, Sister Geneviève, Dr. Geneviève van Waesberghe. That's for Sarah.
I trained with Pat in Rwanda between 2006 to 2002, recently. But since 2009, Pat asked me to be a trainer in Africa. So I just answer invitation. I don't make any propaganda, I answer the invitation. And that has led me since 2009 to Senegal, Nigeria, Cameroon, Congo, Burundi, Uganda, northern Uganda in particular, and Kenya, Tanzania, and South Sudan. So the need is great. But today I am going to focus only on three or four countries. I'm going to focus on Burundi, which is in Central Africa, it's part of the East African community. I will focus on northern Uganda, the Democratic of Congo, and South Sudan. And also I will speak about the work of empowering human rights defenders and peace activists in Congo, northern Uganda, and Sudan. And more recently, empowering of a group of Muslim women. I was invited, I think I got about 10 days notice. Pat sent me an email, London was asking for somebody to go to Senegal, and I dropped Cameroon and I went straight to Senegal to those wonderful group of Muslim women. It was a fabulous experience to be with them, and I will tell you more about it later. Now, one thing as you have seen, I am going to focus on area of conflict in Africa. And in areas of conflict, you find a lot of child soldiers. It's important to know that in the world there are about 250 to 300,000 child soldiers, and 40% of those will be girls, female child soldiers. It's unbelievable. Many of those girls actually do combat, but mainly they are used as porter, cook, slave workers, okay? And they are often labeled as rebels' wife. Child soldiers are easily recruited, and they are not very expensive. They don't eat much food. They are easily brainwashed, and they have a very poorly developed sense of danger. So they can be sent to the front, they can be spies, they can do a lot of different things. And very often child soldiers, when they are being recruited, are asked to kill a member of their community or of their family, or else they are asked to maim them, which means that if ever they are liberated and return home, they are not wanted. People are very afraid of them. We will be also looking, especially in Congo, at sexual violence as a weapon of war. And female women are mainly victims, but I have been very surprised while working in Congo to find the number of men who have been also victims of sexual violence by gangs, well, I would call that gangs, groups of militia, okay, and it's absolutely terrible. And then we find the problem of people who have been displaced and refugees, okay, and displaced people have no roots, okay, all their roots have been cut. And that's why actually Tai Chi is so important, because when we do Tai Chi, one of the first things that we asking people is to just put their 2 feet well on the ground, separate, and to feel their connection with the earth. Okay? So we are trying to ground them, and there are many other things that we do in the movement which helps people to be grounded and to reconnect from each toe. We have big long roots going to Mother Earth, to reconnect with the earth, with their country, with their family, and with the source of life in them. And we will speak then of human rights defenders who have really a very difficult time. And also I will touch on religious fundamentalism. And it could be Muslim, it could be Christian, it could be Jewish, it could be Hinduist, and that often leads to violence against women and violence, political violence, and that will be mainly Islamist fundamentalism in West Africa. So next. And the focus will be on, I already mentioned it, Burundi, on child soldiers, Northern Uganda. I will speak about LRA. I'm sure you have heard in the media about the Lord's Resistance Army. There is a certain illuminated guy called Joseph Kony, who since 1988 has been kidnapping youth. Okay? And now they are suppressed in northern Uganda. They have moved from the Gulu area, where I will be going with you, and they have moved now back to Congo, and they are certainly supported by Sudan, and they are also in the Republic of Central Africa. Actually, the Republic of Central Africa is a country which is waiting for Capacitar, but 4 times the invitation had to be cancelled because of political instability. And then South Sudan became independent on the 9th of July 2011. I worked there before the independence and after. And we have to heal the wound of war. And it is very important because they see healing as a base for peace building and a base for development. There cannot be any development if there is not, first of all, healing of the wound. And then the Democratic Republic of Congo, I will go especially in the eastern part of Congo, the Kivu area, which is all the time on the news, and which is a capital of rape for women. Okay, next. So now I bring you to Burundi. A few years ago, I was invited by Heartland Alliance, some of you might know of that organization, to work with 24 former female child soldiers. All of them had been labeled as rebels' wife, all of them had been pregnant, they had a baby, some are alive, some are dead. They managed to come back home, but they are not wanted by their family. And especially if they have a child who is an unwanted child from the family, she's a child of the enemy, the family doesn't want them. So they were in a rehabilitation camp, and we worked with the staff. I think there were 7 staff, and we worked with those women. When I started the workshop, I only knew that they were all very, very traumatized. You could see their, you know, when you start Tai Chi, you just saw some people like this, and I thought they had physical injury. In fact, no, it's just their self-esteem was just not there. Okay? Now the next day, we started doing more movement, and I start seeing smile on their face. And in Tai Chi, we have one movement, we call that the wise being. You know, we just go inside of ourselves a few times, and we just try to realize how wonderful we are. We are all unique, we have all been created good and everything. And when we did that, at the end of it, we just asked just to give ourselves a hug. And those 2, I just saw them doing that hug, and they just wouldn't stop doing that hug. And for me, it was actually, I had tears in my eyes. I just realized, maybe for the first time in years and years, those 2 children, they were only 14 about, realized that there was goodness, despite all the things which may have happened to them, despite the fact that they may have killed, like they may have been forced to kill or to injure others. They were good people. It was just fantastic. And I think you can go back again. And before I left, I was very afraid to ask them how they were. But I just casually say goodbye now. And then somebody said to me, I slept well last night. And then another one said, I slept well last night, no nightmare. Another one said, I slept well, but I woke up, and then I did that again, or I did, we have we do the old, and I went back to sleep. And then I realized actually how powerful was some of the Capacitar move to help people to heal from their nightmare. And if you can imagine those terrible nightmares of having seen people just killed or whatever, it was young girl, it's absolutely extraordinary. Okay, next. So now we are going to northern Uganda. You have a map of Uganda on top, and in the top of half of Uganda, you are coming to that region of Gulu. That region of Gulu is really the headquarters of LRA soldiers. And since 1988, between 20,000 and 30,000 youths have been kidnapped. Okay? And 1,800,000 fled their home, okay, and their home were often destroyed, burned, and then it's just terrible. And also Gulu is a place where a lot of refugees came from South Sudan, but also people from northern Uganda fled to Sudan during Amin's war, during Obote's war. There was all the time a transit of refugees. So it is really a very, very difficult situation. Next. And in Gulu, I was asked to work with 75 youth from a rural area, which all of them had been affected by LRA. Either their houses were burned, they had fled, or else they had been, 15 of them had been kidnapped, including 3 of the girls, and actually 3 or more actually, but 3 of them, of those girls, had to kill their fathers the day they were abducted. That is a kind of level of trauma that you deal with. So you don't ask a question. That is one thing about Capacitar. You know, sometimes we experts, we think that if we ask a question, if we ask people to tell their story, it will just get that out of the bag and they will feel good. It's not the truth, especially with that kind of trauma. So we ask a no question. And those are some of the boys there. And here, I don't think you can see it very well, but you have one boy is burned in all one side of his body. The LRA burned his house and it fell down him and he was very, very badly burned. And then later on I cut him trying to draw his hand and writing in the local language all the emotion which goes with every finger. So I really said, you are really an artist, you know. And at the end of the 3 days that I was with them, he really came and he just blossomed. It was absolutely wonderful. And this is a young lady, she's half Ugandan, half Sudanese, and she has a terrible history. Her mother, she lived in Khartoum for a long time, and her mother was a teacher, but because she was not Arab really, she was really not paid. And at one stage, her mother, for surviving, managed to catch a dead chicken in a courtyard nearby, and she was put to prison. It was a dead chicken, but she was put to prison, and they escaped. She's a wonderful lady. She's in charge of those youth. Next. Okay. And I was also amazed with those young boys. I was told, Geneviève, be ready because they are quite destructive. You will have difficulty with them. We had a workshop all day long. At night, they were practicing on each other. They said to me they would be drumming all night and keep you awake, never heard the sound of a drum. They practiced, they went to bed, they slept. And at the end again of the workshop, I think one or two also said that they had only two said that they had nightmares. But I didn't really even ask them, they just say no nightmare, no nightmare, no nightmare. So it's really just wonderful. And I know they continue to practice with some of their leaders and with Nancy. Now we are traveling to South Sudan before independence. And that is one of my challenges. One sister, an American sister, Katia, who had been in El Salvador before and got to know about Capacitar, and I think she passed through VFAT, and you referred her to me, asked me to come to South Sudan. And she said, well, can we try maybe 30 people? 200 came up to the meeting, to that workshop. So next. And this is, and following that, the next time that I was there, Cathy organized to have 4 people from 4 different regions or dioceses of South Sudan. And we had just a wonderful, we had 2 intensive training for leaders in those 4 areas. And some of them have done absolutely fantastic work afterwards. And we have one practice, I must share that with you. Am I right? Okay, I'll go to the next one then. And here, one of the followers was, you see that lady in yellow there, in plain bright yellow, that is Natalina. Natalina is one of the persons that we trained, and she invited us back. She had got the SPLA army and the police to invite us, and we had a workshop with SPLA, and Cathy was with us in the arm of one of those soldiers. And here she also invited us to go to the prison. We worked with all the people who were condemned to death, at least some of them. And the male, we had 18 men, and most of them, 7 of them actually, were chains in on their feet. And women, this woman, really, she broke her heart. The story was that her husband beat her up and broke her arm. And then he came back with a cookie is a spear, to kill her. And for some reason, she just turned the spear around, and he's the one who died. But she's the one in prison for the rest of her life. And she had a 7-month-old baby with her. So, but that was just, and those prisoners have suffered a lot. Those soldiers have suffered a lot. We possibly got the healthy one, but many are also in the barracks. Some are tied up or locked in because they have been fighting since they are children, and many of them are very disturbed, and there is no care for them. So I think we are supposed to go back sometimes to work more with them. Next. And then I went to Malakal, and again Cathy said to me, oh, you know, I think we will be about having 50 people. 200 women came from the rural area, and there is no hotel. So in the morning when you went, you saw a lot of benches. They all slept in the open sky on benches, and they cooked. They had organizing cooking and everything. It was well organized, but it was rough, you know, so they didn't come just for a small little nice picnic. It was really rough. And those women were just wonderful. And myself, I found I was kind of overwhelmed because it was the first time. Usually we were in a circle, and I was put on a platform with a micro in front of me. I felt like a clown in front of this 200 women and 20 men. They were leaders as well. And this man with a blue shirt, at the end he was about 80 years of age, and he said to me, I have been since 1953 in some rebels group, you know, like, and now he was leader, I think, of a parish. But you could hear a pin drop during the session. It was just wonderful. And the effect on those women are great. Many of them are suffering from high blood pressure due to stress, And 6 months later, I have seen some of them said, no, because we are doing the practice, our blood pressure is okay. And we have had also people suffering, well, irritability is quite, like burst of temper and everything, and they can control it. One woman said to me, I used to be so angry I could kill my neighbors because the neighbors were all the time coming to her. And she said, no, I am able just to listen, and I just let things go through and remain calm, and I am able to cope with life. Another woman said, it's a very patriarchal society, and women are afraid even to ask for sugar to their husband. So she went to the husband, no, she can go to the husband and ask for money to buy sugar for the children. And she said, I come back and I get what I want from my husband. But what my husband doesn't know is that I'm holding my index finger. You do not know. Holding your index finger helps you to manage your fears, so you remain calm, you are dignified, and you're not saying, hey, I have money, you just can be quite assertive. So it's just wonderful. Okay, next. There is another one. Yes, then I was in the Republic of Congo a few years ago, and I worked with GRS, that is the Jesuit Refugee Service, with 180 women who had been sexually assaulted. And here you can see a t-shirt, no to violence, on our mothers, sisters, and wives. Okay, next. That again is in the camp. And the children then came along and said, and we are not getting anything, so I told them the finger hold using a song in Swahili. Next. And now I am working with the human rights defenders. I have been invited by Protection International and Amnesty International. And I will be soon going back there to train 5 of them as trainers for the Kivu area. And I will be mentoring them as they start training another group. But that group in Congo is absolutely vibrant. And those are very traumatized people. Even last time, 3 of them could come because some of the village from where they were coming, there was a lot of shooting and everything, and they couldn't leave the village. Traveling by bus is very dangerous. So it's really a very difficult place. And in that area there is a hospital called Pense Hospital where there are 350 beds, and the 350 beds are all the time filled with women who are there because of sexual violence and needing fistula repair and other things. And I think I have to stop. So that is just some of our Dinka people in men in northern, in Rwanda, in South Sudan, dancing in gratitude for Capacitar. And that is the word peace in many of their language. That is a challenge. Sometimes I have 11 languages on one single. Like in Juba, it's usually 11 languages. Next. That's it. So.